Good morning, March 30th, 2026. It's 12:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your host and your Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, YHWH, for the number one Godcast of the universe. We're going to talk about a few things today. We'll just start with the most important things. Is we cannot negotiate with terrorists, one. Two, until the job is complete, we should not be and will not be leaving Iran, that's for sure. So, the regime that needs to be dealt with, spoken with, corresponded with, is one that is going to be a free Iran, not a national religion of jihad, not a dictatorship, not an oligarchy, but a free republic democracy. And we could see gas prices if Iran essentially is installed with a new democracy. One, two, we begin an open and free trade with them. Americans could see gas, not even exaggerating, before Thanksgiving you could see gas at 90 cents a gallon. Mark my words, you could see gas below $1, and not as a fugazi, not a temporary thing, but as a very real permanent price tag on oil. Because understand that if Iran is number one going to become one of our best friends, that's what I want. I want Iran to become an equal of that to Israel, actually. I want the real Iranian people who are going to be running and reigning and thriving as citizens in Iran. I want them to be on an equal footing with the United States and Israel is when it comes to me, Elohim. And I want to see them flourish. I want to see them prosperous. And I want to see that for the future to come, that between Iran and Israel, they can hold the line of at minimum righteousness. At minimum righteousness. You can have differing beliefs in religion, that's fine. I have no qualms with that. But you should all be in accordance with what goodness is. Nobody in the creation wants to be assaulted or killed or terrorized by evil and wicked people. That's not good for anyone. And people that have that type of behavior do not deserve this creation. That's the point. There are good men and women of all ages that are just wanting to have a good experience on this creation. They're wanting to have good relationships with others in the creation. They want to have community and fellowship, and they want to have experiences that only Earth can provide. So in some ways, the Earth is the creation designed by my house, my kingdom, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Adonai, Hashem. He who comes from heaven is presently upon the earth. I do that just for kind of effect. But all jokes aside, when there are all good people operating in good faith on all things, then we're not going to have any of the issues that we're dealing with. Instead, we can get to dealing with fun issues, because believe it or not, the human experience shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be full of anxiety. It shouldn't be full of want. It shouldn't be full of scarcity. There's more than enough in this creation that I, as Elohim, have provided for all creatures, human beings included. There should be no human being that's left without food, shelter, a purpose, and a community care form. The 4 pillars of the new earth, right? Ensuring every human being has food, water, shelter, community, and safety. 5 pillars then. That's the expectation. But before we can even get to solving those problems, and I do have the solutions to the problems, but so does humanity. One of the biggest problems is getting people out of their own way. Truly, it's the biggest problem, right? And step one is those people that are like, I don't want to do good things. I don't want to be a good person. I want to murder people. Those people are it's a one-way street. That's to my point, right? It isn't like that we're upset at people because of their color or their religion or their geographical area or their preferences or their culture or anything. It's simply, I don't want people, whatever nationality, whatever religion, whatever preferences, have whatever preferences, religion, and nationality you want to. Just don't go kill people. And don't try to push demonic religion ideals ever. If anything, any religion should just be, at its basic function, trying to give the human being, belief and faith and hope into the other world, right? And then you obviously want to get synced up to the real God of those worlds, who is me in the flesh. But I'm saying those things are peace, harmony, good virtues, good righteous moral fabric of doing a purpose doing a purpose in the creation. That instead of seeing how can one person pull the wool over another one's eyes so they can benefit, actually find solutions that it's a win-win, that there is no downside, that we can ensure that every human is taken care of in a righteous, pious, upright manner. But likewise, we're not going to be taking care of people that are just spitting in our faces either. Do you see the difference? When my churches are offering handouts to the lower class, when it's received humbly, thankfully, and gratefully, mission accomplished. If my churches are outreaching and people are arrogant and stubborn and they're abusive to the church congregants or the charitable members of society, those are not the people we serve. They can take a hike, period. There is no turn the other cheek when it comes to, my parishioners, my patrons, my faithfuls, Jew, non-Jew, right? I'm saying, bad people do not deserve the creation. And when there are no bad and evil and wicked people upon the creation, all the good humans can kind of come out of hiding and start letting their light shine again. They can start saying, you know what? I'm amazing at this purpose. I'm going to be the best fill in the blank that I can be. It was disillusioning, growing up as a child. I remember being in middle school, and I had a coach that I looked up to in middle school. Not looked up to in an idolatry way, of course, never that. But I mean, the coach, for example, was putting the middle school classes through the DARE program, right? It was about drugs. And so giving the kind of nuance that watching the class, you would think this healthy coach, he was an athlete or whatever, and he's telling about how bad drugs are. And it's you walk away with that thinking, yes, hey, look at Coach, right? He's a good example for other kids. He's not doing drugs. He's healthy. And then only come to find out, years later, that same coach was selling, drugs to students. You see how that is terrible. That is a situation that, given the different combinations, is a lot of what the world's made up of, right? They're fugazis. It's all a show. It's oh, well, while the coach is at work, he don't do drugs, and he's going to preach about that to the kids, versus, oh, well, the actual truth is, no, that coach does drugs. That coach didn't care, right? I'm saying, we don't want that in society. That's unauthentic, and it's destabilizing, because imagine what kind of, when you're actually showing the youth of America especially that there is no barrier between student and teacher. There absolutely should be a barrier. That barrier is for protection. That barrier is for righteousness. It is to ensure that the water and the oil do not mix. A teacher is not a student's friend. No matter how bad the liberals want that outcome, that is not a righteous outcome. Your teacher is to be your teacher. As a pupil, you are to be a pupil. Now, it rests the burden of being a good teacher, a good educator. Now, it does rest upon their shoulders. They should be righteous through and through. They're teaching things because they themselves are knowledgeable. And they're instructing in righteousness in their teachings, but also, and I'm talking about actual learnings, like public schools, universities, not just churches. I mean, churches need to take this too, but I mean, the eye is focused on these things, because what's coming down to here at this next phase for my side, obviously I'm puppet stringing the war through a few different players, but that's not the big thing, right? We're not going to just sit here and sit on our hands and wait for the war. That's one plate in the air. The next plate in the air is ensuring I'm weighing things up. Everything's going to be judged, guys. Everything from food, everything to behaviors, everything from deeds to tasks. If it is judgeable, I will be judging it. Every business, every practice, every behavior, virtually every word, every thought, every mechanic of the left to the right, to the bottom, to the top, every single thing is going to be weighed, measured, and decided by me, counsel, and the angels who already understand the breaks. Like, they understand where things are going to be falling on what side of the fence based on a parameter of righteousness, based on a parameter of virtue. Here's a great example. This week's biggest loser when it comes to the judging scales is debt collections. Debt collection companies and companies that solicit essentially vulnerable parts of society or those who have been financially troubled in the past. The biggest losers because you're cheating the system. You're finding loopholes. Let's say someone had an account, right? And then they didn't have the ability to pay this old phone bill or this old cable bill or whatever, something to that effect, right? And let's say that then the 7-year period, it should fall off, because as the business also operates, it should never be 100% on the business owner to, right, be successful, and it should on the consumer. No, it should be balanced, right? If T-Mobile, let's say, is afraid of losing so much money, then they shouldn't offer those expensive services and or type of contracts, right, in the first place, if they're not prepared to take a loss after the 7 years. That's what I mean, is the biblical mindset of all things is your origin. The origin is, if I'm a business owner and I know, okay, well, if I lend out a product or a service and the person's going to be on any kind of credit situation, if they stop paying, I, as the business owner, am going to assume that in 7 years, I'm going to be responsible for all the product or all the service that I've just given away. Businesses do not operate like that anymore. No, because instead of that, 7 years comes up, then they just sell the debt to a company who then will aggressively pursue the poor people. As those people are pursuing those poor people, then they can go another 7 years while harassing these people, calling them, doing all these other legal actions post a 7-year period. That's against biblical law. That is against universal law. That is why that is the biggest loser this week. And all companies like it. When I judge one example, I'm actually able to go into queue all things that work under the same circumstances or parameter. So if I strike down debt collection companies and those who are prying at poor people because they do not have any money, then they are perpetuating a human life cycle that people, instead of having more opportunities to pull themselves out of financial debt or strain or whatever, the world is constantly adding more and more stress and pressure that's prohibiting people from actually getting out of poverty, getting out of the cycle. Because a human being at its best has about 120 years of life on the creation. If they're spending the most time in debt, in poverty, and then guess what? When you're in debt, you're in poverty, and you're being threatened, and then now you can't pay basic bills, guess what ends up happening? People then turn to crime. They turn to crime out of desperation, because if people are trying to do things the right way, and they continue to fail because of either bureaucratic red tape, crappy employment opportunities, and again, there are systems that are designed, like the credit score system, right? It's virtually designed to ensure that a top 20% are eligible for home ownership. We know it's funny. The Democrats want to go and talk about disparity. They want to talk about what things are unfair, about voting and voter ID. You know what? 99.9% of everybody is fine with voter ID. But you know what? 99.9% of everyone who doesn't make $100,000 or $200,000 a year or more, which make up at least 3/4 of the country, by the way, the problems that's actually hitting those people, and I am those people, is we live and die by a credit score that is extremely hard to obtain. We spend and waste most of our lives just trying to to achieve above water status. But then one little bump in the road and everything can fall to pieces because of the way the financial industry is built. Everyone deserves to have a home. It should not be dependent upon your credit, because human beings are required to have a home, right? That would be like saying, I need to go to the grocery store, but before I can walk in the door, I've got to fill out an application. I've got to make sure that I prove to these people that I can afford to buy groceries. I'm a living thing. My creator said I need to have food. You have created a society based on stores and groceries. That means as long as I have the money to pay, I should be able to go buy groceries. If you are a human being, you are required to have a home. That is not only a human law, but that is my law as God. That is my law. Human beings are required to have a shelter. They're required to have water, food, fire, shelter, safety. The 5 pillars of human existence. That's a non-negotiable. That doesn't require money. It doesn't require red tape. You know what it requires? It requires the elimination of greed. That is the next sin that will be coming down for execution, is greed. Take notes. Greed. Thus, when I say something and I write it into the official book, thus it is now law. Churches, you better be running this message immediately, especially coming up this weekend. Greed is a sin. I, as Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, will be coming down upon and creating judgments for those things and those people that are tied to that, because greed is what is affecting this sector of sin. As Dr. Yahweh, who diagnoses the world's sins and hands them an antidote, before I begin the elimination, the execution, the removal of such sins. So again, the law of 7 must stand accurately. And to Asherah's point she made earlier, and I want to ensure I include it because she's very, very smart, by the way, and she thinks about these things for y'all as well. The debt, let's say you opened a account blank in year 2000, right? For whatever reason, you owed that account, right? It was a cell phone or something. You were unable to pay it. In 2007, that account is written off. They can no longer pursue. It can no longer be collected upon. They can no longer sell debt to other companies. So sweareth I, saith the Lord. This is a law that will be passed this week, or when Congress, I guess, is back. Because you guys are always on vacation, and I am never taking vacation. I'm trying to get legislation passed, and we can't even get DHS funded. Y'all are irritating me. So, I want this passed. No longer is debt to be sold and resold under collection agencies. That is wrong. That is against spiritual, universal law, and it is against man's law, because I, as God, have written it down into the Holy Bible. That is a fact. I don't care what religion you're in. I don't care what nationality you are. In the United States of America and in Israel, this is going to become divine law. I am not messing around with it. As human beings, just like that, right? If a human being has the money, they should be able to go into any grocery store to buy food. They should be able to sit down at any restaurant and eat, right? There is no discrimination, because it has nothing to do with anything. Discrimination, the only thing that the kingdom of heaven discriminates against is sin. That is it. We do not discriminate based on your geographical location, what your nationality is, what your ethnic race is, what your skin color is. And guess what? We don't even care about your previous sin history, believe it or not. What we care about is, are you willing to put sin into remittance by accepting virtue, morale, and ethical behavior? There is a book and a guide that tells you how others have done it before you, and they can give you inspiration on how you can do it too. If you need further assistance, the God you're talking about is very, very real and interacts with humankind on a daily basis, as I do. But understand, what you see in the video is the 10% of the Almighty God. I am the 10% talking head of that Almighty God. I am the humanoid of that Godhead. That is my spirit, the Holy Spirit. That's a fact. Moving on to our next. All right, so for etching that out, the judgment coming down this week is going to be greed. Shall be judged upon. And again, I want to see the immediate elimination of second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh party debt collectors just buying and selling poor people's debts and then harassing them. Bullcrap. If you're not prepared as a business to lose what you just gave credit over, if you're not willing to lose it after 7 years of no pay, then you should not have been lending it, you should not have been servicing it, nor should you have been relying on it. Because you are never going to make business out of debt. Because those are what's called deals. And I assure you, if there are any deals made, they're going to be made and approved by me and me alone, as God, as Yahweh in the flesh. That's a fact. That's a promise. And 2, it will only be dealt with a brand new regime. And the first working order, the number 1 bullet list on there. So Rubio, listen up. Hegseth, you listen up. PT, you especially. A new regime is a free, diplomatic, democratic, and a constitutional-styled republic. The people should be electing leaders, and the United States is going to be providing basically arms support during the process of the election of the new Iranian leader. All right, I'm going to take a 5, and me and the wife are going to have lunch, and then I will regroup post-lunch. And we're back. So, Asher and I had lunch. It was fantastic. As usual, turkey wrap with lettuce, cheese on a spinach wrap. So, that was obviously a very good lunch. Now she's back on the grind, and so is her, so shall I. Couple of things though on that. So I have been getting the Aldi processed turkey. Unfortunately, I would love to see an Aldi fresh cut meat deli. This is not we don't even need test markets. We just need to go full on. To be honest, you could actually extend, because Aldi stores are, for those of you who don't know, Aldi stores are basically modeled the exact same. And I want to say almost every Aldi store is actually built custom to the way the Aldi store works. Because it's like a Dutch brand or something. Or, yeah, I think it's like a Dutch or something like that. A fresh cut meat department. I mean, here's why. So, Asher and I ended up having to go to Publix because Aldi doesn't carry my coffee, which I drink the Folgers Black Silk. So usually I can score it pretty good in Publix because they got the BOGO. Well, when we were there, we also needed lunch meat for the week, obviously. So we went to explore the deli options, and they already had it pre-sliced, ready to go. It's the Boar's Head brand. I've never had it. Well, we used it, and wow. I mean, night and day, from the quality of the wrap to pre-Boar's Head to Boar's Head. I mean, it is night and day difference. It is ridiculously good. And it's so much healthier because it's not processed. It's just a straight cut, they slow roast the meat and they just cut it off the bone, flash, bag it, seal it, and then they sell it. It expires a lot faster, but I mean, if you're eating lunch regularly every day, it shouldn't be a problem. Highly recommended. But again, I do like the loyalty I have to Aldi, and I'll also have loyalty to Publix. But I'm saying, I think that there is a spot for Aldi to be able to have the meat, the deli, because if you were to walk into Aldi and you go straight to your left, you have the pizzas, you have the produce, Then to the right you have like the apples. I'm just looking at it as I'm telling you. This is what the benefit of being God is. So as you're walking, then you have the wine to the right, then you have the bread to the left, the hamburger buns, and then you have like the butter bread, then the whole wheat bread. Then to the right, you also have the like mini muffins. Straight ahead, you have the milk, then you have the eggs, then you have the coffee creamer. Anyway, what I'm imagining that deli is if you actually took the like 25 feet of the produce, of the eggs, the milk, and the creamer butters. Those are the three categories that are right there on the first, right when you run in. If you were to take that left wall, condense the bread into 2 aisles, and then swing the produce aisle, like double it back. Basically, you just add one more aisle, and then you clear that whole corner out. You could have counter. So basically in the corner, right when you walk into the front door, your eye would be able to be drawn right to the deli counter as you're looking at produce, and then you're because everyone's going down the main aisle, right? And then you want to round that corner. That's when you can pick up your bread, because you obviously are going to be making sandwiches. Then when you get to the end, you want to pick up your sandwich meat. Then your next stop is the eggs, the milk, the creamer, and then the fun Aldi aisle, which, I mean, is a family favorite. Who doesn't love the fun Aldi aisle? There's all kinds of stuff in the fun Aldi aisle that I like and would love to buy, but we can't afford mostly. But I'm saying that aisle, one day, I will shop that aisle. Unfettered because of money. The candles are getting better too, by the way. I like that Aldi, we're working on the candles. And hold on, and what is the deal with I give all the praises to the Mama Cozy brand, the pizzas and the bread? I mean, perfection. And the cost is perfect. We swapped that for Brenner. I mean, what the hell, Aldi? That's not cool. I'm not going to be like an official sponsor of Aldi if we keep changing the brands that I'm trying to... I'm trying to let the public know what's actually good out there versus what the salesy people tell you is good. Because that's what I mean. A lot of these things, it's like if you go and ask the opinions of people and then assume your persona based on everyone else's thoughts and opinions, you don't know anything about you. Right? Versus if... And obviously this doesn't come with sin, right? Sin is a whole other category. I'm talking about just human preferences, you know? Don't just take my word for stuff. Go out there and see it for yourself. If you have a different experience, then share the experience. That's what the human experience is, guys. You have an experience and you share the experience. You have an experience, you share the experience. You can take the understandings, the lessons, the stories of others' experiences, and you can take what's helpful, leave the rest, right? And we're going to move on because I don't want this to be too long. Covered the Aldi meat station. Oh, another program, because I left off on the judgment upon greed. Greed is going to be a sin of judgment I am going to be releasing the vials on. So all those that are currently in greed as a sin, and you have not corrected your behavior, nor have you made any attempt to curb your greed, just understand the judgment is coming. So I would suggest you start making some moves now. But because this, again, you have the Democrats who make such a big deal out of a nothing, right? And talking about like, well, there's this happens on many layers, right? Because on one layer, the Democrats talk about disenfranchisement. Well, you know what disenfranchisement really is? It's saying that if you don't make a certain amount of money, if you're not playing the game at an effective level in the United States or even around the world, then you're not eligible to have a home. Then guess what? You fall in an in-between category where you're basically either homeless or you are destitute and rely on others. No matter which way the cookie crumbles, that's not a productive citizen that's in a safe environment with access to food, to water, to fire, to shelter, to safety. The 5 pillars of human existence. Thus, I think it's really stupid that employers have benefits that actually are not a benefit to the human being at all. Instead, employers who especially are making such, I mean, if your CEO is making over $1 million a year, there's a cut, guys. $1.5 million should be the absolute maximum. Even like Jeff Bezos, like I'm saying, like there's only so much personal wealth one human even needs to do all the things you need to do. The rest of that is to say, guess what? As an employer, we have something called a sponsored home ownership program. Upon working for my company, you actually are going to be required to have a home, because I need you to be helpful, productive, and happy. And if you have a family and a stabilizing unit at home, guess what? As your employer, it's my responsibility to ensure that you're going to be able to take care of your family, pay your bills. That's what a privilege as a business owner it would be. What a privilege it would be to say to any family, to every family in my organization, I genuinely care about you, because I genuinely appreciate the work that you're doing for my company. And in a good faith effort, I want to ensure that we have a program that is going to ensure that every people that work for that company are going to be housed. It's a sponsorship program. It could help with a down payment. It could help with logistics. It could help with all types of things, guys. Home buying should be home buying should be the simplest, most less complicated endeavor that a human being could ever do, because it is the number one most important thing for a human being to ever have. If there is no stable home, there is no chance at a family raising good kids. We could destroy an entire generation, and people are powerful by individual. They are even more powerful when they are a collective. If the world wants to continue the dog eat dog, the rich and powerful eat the poor rebel against the rich and powerful, and you have an endless cycle of war, of violence, destitution, all the things that American citizens left and right are struggling with, you're not actually struggling with the things you think you are. You are struggling with powers and principalities that are all grown from sinful thoughts, sinful behaviors, and actions. As the Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, I have been gifted as the flesh on earth to house myself. I understand these things because I am the beekeeper outside of your hive. But I look like a bee, so I can diagnose the problems within the hive. That's what I, as your God, am doing here. I am in the flesh of a human being, so I can gauge, understand, and judge things in the earth domain on an active, real basis. This is my job. This is my purpose. I am doing my job. Unfortunately, my job and my purpose does not come with a paycheck, because I am the top of my corporation. It's a complex endeavor. Thus, charity is the only thing I'm able to receive as God on earth, which is fine. And I give all my ideas freely to businesses who will listen and understand, because I am not selfish in the fact that I need to go and patent my ideas. I want my ideas taken by any and all people who are going to do something righteous with it. That's what I want. My will and my genuine heart is I know how to fix every single area of human existence, and I'm willing and ready to put forth those blueprints. I just need people to raise their hand and say, send me, God. I'm willing to work for the kingdom. And right now, this is a time of change, guys. Understand something. What you're seeing in like the Roman Catholic Church is you're seeing 2,000 years of an evolution of an offshoot religion that comes from me. That's what Christianity and Catholicism is. It's how human beings have rationalized when I visit mankind. That's their level of rationale. I am fast, I am quick, and I come like lightning. Like I am very, very fast when I come upon people, because I know the right way. And just like any father, right, if any of one of your kids start going down the wrong path and you're a righteous father, you're going to grab them and say, no, come down this way, right? You're not going to sit there and watch them go down the wrong way. You're going to intervene at every chance you get. A good parent would do that. As a good father, that's what I'm doing for the world. I'm trying to intervene and say, guys, like, you're shooting yourselves, like, unfortunately, by having such selfish, greed-driven, like, mechanicals in your societies. You see what I mean? Because again, nature versus nurture. I as Elohim, me and my Asherah, we can create the nurture. I mean the nature. I mean we can predisposition human beings to be less aggressive. We can, position them to be more like thought seeking. I'm saying we can adjust those things. But if I make the bird, but the air can't support the bird, then the bird is in like a void. Like it can't function. You see what I mean? I can't change humankind's nature until there are systems in place to support the nature. That's a very big revelation right there. In human words, that's so big. I am not only trying to change the nature of humanity, but I also need humanity in this time now to begin listening to me and operating the right way and in accordance with me, because this is real, this is fact, this is future, this is what we're doing now for the future. And I don't mean in like 300 years, I mean in like immediately. They may seem drastic, and some people that are in the side of sin, or they're in disagreements with universal or holy biblical law, they're not going to like that. And this is where my churches need to come in to help those that are going to be landing right in that uncomfortable spot of having to give things up and having to change things in their own working lives. Okay. Alright, so yeah, employer-sponsored home ownership programs, that needs to be a thing. Again, home ownership is the number one top priority. Second only to food and water, guys. Food, water, shelter. Like, food, water, shelter, fire, safety. Like the 5 pillars of human existence. This is what my churches should have been about. My entire absence should have been about the 5 elements of the 5 pillars of human existence. And instead, people have found out every other reason in the world to sin and how to avoid actually taking care of each other. Because let me tell you something. As God the Father in the flesh, Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, whenever I see a sinful person out in the open, the wilds of humandom, and they are a wicked little evil sinful person, I see that person and I pity that person and I go, where are your parents? And these people may be 60 years old, but I go, where are your parents? What happened? What's going on here that we're thieving? Or what's going on here that we're lying? What's going on here that we're whoring? What's going on here that we're tattling in debauchery? I don't like that. Why are we in casinos on Saturday night and then we're walking into church hungover on Sunday? I do not like that. I do not like that. I would rather somebody be in church because they want a genuine, working, authentic relationship with me, their Elohim, versus somebody who says, I want to look like I'm a churchgoer, but in reality, I love my sin. Or I don't care about Elohim and I don't care about anything. Like, I would rather you just stay away than just stay away. But, I am very pleased that the tankers that Russia sent did not have any contraband, such as weaponry on it. And I did explain to PT's team that we should not block oil to Cuba because it's going to create a humanitarian crisis. And the thing is, we don't want to be an instigator in a humanitarian crisis, because we're not. That is not what the United States military's aim is, or will be, or should have been. If it is, it's not anymore. Guys, I am here to make the biggest waves I can, because I'm going to be changing the entire world, the structure of it, the humans, how you live, what you do, and every single thing that your current existence allows, not allows, I'm changing based on the divine preferences that I have. This mind, body, soul, spirit is one, and it is based on how I perceive things. I want you to understand that. It is based on how I perceive things. If I perceive something as evil, thus then I judge it. If I see something as righteous, thus then I bless it. It's a very simple program that I as Yahweh Elohim have. If it's good to my expectations and standards, I give it a blessing. If it is wicked or evil, then I give it a curse. If it is somewhere in the middle, I give it a teaching. That is how I operate. A blessing, a curse, or a teaching. That's the secret sauce. If you do something, do you think it would think about this as a human. If you wake up every single day and you do this one thing, think about what you're going to do that day. And think of me, your Heavenly Father, as that little angel on your shoulder. And you as the human are in your first moments of the day, and you're thinking about all the things you're going to do that day. I want you to think of me, your Heavenly Father, on your shoulder. And I want you to think, what would I say? Would I say, I'm about to teach you something, meaning heed, caution. I think there's information you're not aware about and you should learn something here. It could help the choices you make. Or do I say, I love that idea. It aligns with righteousness. You're not only helping someone else, but you're also willing to whatever, right? It's righteous, it's good, it's going to get a blessing. Or you're buying debt from somebody after 7 years to then start the process all over again, and the consequences are actually just slamming the already sad case who was unable to pay a debt. Guys, the shame of humanity used to be so great that you didn't need to further rub people's nose in their own shame. I'm saying humans had a lot more shame than they do now. Thus is also a problem with humanity, right? When you guys are running away from shame so fast, guess what happens? If shame doesn't make you change alone, then guess what follows? Discipline follows. And if discipline doesn't inquire the change, then a law is placed to institute that change. So as I've said, educate or regulate. I am not a fan of regulation because I think that human beings are smart enough on an individual basis to work collectively as a righteous society in any place in the world. Doesn't matter if your soil is grass or desert or tundra or whatever. But okay. So Cuba's going to be back with the lights on, but either way, the dictator regime in Cuba is going to fall. And guess what? Russia's not going to have a fuss about it. So with that, I'm happy enough. I will let that be. Because we have our hands full with Iran. Right now, as it stands, people want to know, are we going after Karg Island? Are we going after Hormuz? Or what are we doing? Well, the plan is, yes. We need to take Hormuz and basically be running United States / Israeli / coalition assets up Highway 91, Highway 96, Highway 94, which basically right where the Strait of Hormuz begins. It's in the Gulf of Oman, but essentially Bandar Abbas is where the pinch point comes. And as we see, the landscape in the Iranian territory is almost equal that of what it was back in Iraq under Operation Iraqi Freedom. Very similar to Afghanistan, identical. So a lot of times these jihadists, they'll embed themselves in mountain ranges, and they'll even have underground tunnels that they'll hide assets and even themselves. So it is going to be really, really tricky. But as long as we have constant air patrol on the east side of the Strait of Hormuz, basically running skies all the way from the corner here of Pakistan and Iran, all the way up to the Kuwaiti border with Iraq. And if we have our air support basically covering that area, that corridor, just back and forth, and as soon as something, a heat-seeking radar or night vision if it's at night, but basically monitoring these radar units, these UAVs, and any movement, clip them. Gone. As soon as they see a heat signature of, rocket fire or gunfire, I'm saying anything like that, we can intercept the missile, and we can lay down the fire to get rid of them. Long enough to start clearing ships out of Hormuz, and then once we establish dominance on Karg, that's when we'll just choke out anything going to the IRGC. People can start getting their oil, and they can even be assured, the insurance companies can be assured their tankers are safe, because they'll have a U.S. escort coming right there. U.S. escort to sit there with you while you're loading. They'll round the island, come back out with the U.S. escort leading the way, and then United States air cover right above at the exact same time. Is what I mean, same time. A three-front approach, a three-prong approach. Because here's the trick: if we try to do any build-up on either point, Iran is going to use that opportunity. It gives them more options if we focus on one objective at a time. Versus, we actually have the manpower, we have the artillery, we have all the assets already in region to do a complete assault on all three fronts. The IRGC would be so overwhelmed they would collapse. That's how we get them to collapse with less than 15 days. Less than 15 days you can get them to collapse. You have 2,500 Marines dropping into the palace, the most notable, reputable place in Iran. Once that is visually seen on camera, and the entire media is covering the United States Marine Corps has now taken and seized the palace in Tehran, the Strait of Hormuz is seeing traffic lift, and then the Karg Island is now secured by U.S. Marines, and we've got a 30,000 strong boot presence that's all around the region to ensure that everything's going to hold together. Because the Yemeni Houthis, you're about to be eliminated, extinguished, gone, total annihilation. You are a jihadist, and your ring of fire will be eliminated alongside all of the infidels that want to continue to kill Christians and Jews on my creation. You pray to demon gods or false gods, and at the end of the day, you're not even a religious people. You're not even religious zealots. You are actually incarnate demons. You are the spirits of giants who absolutely, under every circumstances, have been allergic to righteousness. Your Bible is literally the complete opposite of goodness. And that's never going to stand in this creation. That is a fact. That is a fact. Yeah, the DHS shut down. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. The Democrats are completely, like, the loony left. Imagine a new age of Democrats that say, you know what? We're actually not crazy psychopaths. We're willing to say, at minimum, our country has borders for a reason. Let's enforce them. I can get behind that. Let's say that any criminal, illegal alien needs to be on the fast pass out of this country, and those that may be illegal that are still in the country need to still be deported with an application to come back. And let's say even if we needed to send them back with the application and we could put in like a 60 to 90 day fast pass, but they need to be background checked, they need to be validated and authenticated, and they need to provide a purpose of what they're going to be doing, why they're doing it, what are they contributing to America financially, scientifically, or culturally. They should be contributing to America. People that are coming over to then suckle America's tit are not the people I want here. They can just as easily be lazy tit sucklers in Mexico and Bangladesh. I don't care. Because everyone at some point is going to have their country, their nation renewed, is what I'm saying, folks. We don't need everybody trying to come to the water trough in America when, as God, I'm going to fill everyone's water trough. Do you understand? I need Americans in America, Spaniards in Spain, Germans in Germany, French in France, Britons in Britain, or British in Britain. I'm saying everyone needs to go back to their damn room. Unless you're fighting the righteous war. Then come out of your room and get your butt on the line. Alright. And oil, of course. Once we take Karg, we will be, again, we're going to be loading up those trucks. We're going to be taking payment, and we will give 100% of the money back to a free Republic Iran. A free democratic Republic Iran. They will have all the money, 100%. We don't want it. And we don't want or need the oil. But in fact, because the United States was your liberator, and I, as your Elohim, was the motivating force behind that, you don't even have to change religion. But I would like to say, let us help you get online with the free world. We can show you what to trade, how to use the natural resources that I, as your God, have given you, and give us a great discount on oil. I would like to see gas in the United States by Thanksgiving. I'd like to see them about 90 cents a gallon. I would. And if we do, sorry, I got my teeth some more. And hey, if PT and team actually take my advice and we use the three-prong approach, guys, I'm telling you, this war can be over quick. Winning a war is the only way. That's another thing. I am absolutely appalled. I'm making a note because I'm going to write on this one too. So when I'm done with this, add the appalling theme of nations warring for a ceasefire. I just want you to understand something. How insane is it for any nation to say, I'm going to go to war, and then days or even a month later say that they are trying to get a ceasefire? Imagine as soon as the Americas entered into the Nazi world and the Nazi world into the war, and then we see on the radio, oh, the president's now, okay, man, they're on the radio. And the president of the United States is begging the Nazi commander-in-chief, Adolf Hitler, for a deal. The president of the United States is begging Adolf Hitler for a deal. The United States president is waiting on the Nazis for a deal. The United States president is waiting for SS officers to pick up the phone to make a deal. Do you understand how stupid you sound? There are no deals. There were no deals in World War II, thus a decisive victory. There is no deals. There is a decisive victory, and the proof of that will be a new regime who loves America, who loves Israel, and who is absolutely going to abolish jihadism in the Middle East. That's victory. Signing the United States-Israel Accord. Not Trump's Abraham Accords. That's stupid. The real accords with me, Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah. The living God. That's what. Alright. I see Miss Levitt here is about to do her little press speech here, so I will I'll hop off here, catch that, and then have some spring break time with the kiddos. But yeah, that's how stupid I see presidents or prime ministers, even world leaders, like, oh, everybody, let's gather and let's talk about a peace talk. Let's talk about a ceasefire. What fucking good does that do? Then why'd you go to war in the first place? You only go to war if you're gonna get victory. If you go to war and you're not there to get victory, then you just started shit for no reason. Thus is a sin. Don't do that. Have a great day.